On June 22, 2025, the world woke to a chilling new reality. News broke in the early hours that the United States had launched a series of powerful, coordinated airstrikes against Iran's most sensitive nuclear facilities. The headlines flashed across every screen, urgent, alarming, and impossible to ignore. Satellite imagery soon revealed the scale of the operation, with explosions lighting up the night sky over key Iranian nuclear sites, sending shockwaves far beyond the region. The Pentagon, in a rare pre-dawn press briefing, described the strikes as a defensive operation. Officials insisted the mission was designed to degrade Iran's nuclear ambitions and prevent what they called an imminent threat to global security. The language was measured, but the message was clear. The United States had crossed a line, and the world was now on edge. This moment was the culmination of years, if not decades, of rising tension between Washington and Tehran. Diplomatic efforts had repeatedly failed, and both sides had engaged in a dangerous game of brinkmanship. Now that long-simmering conflict had erupted into open warfare, with consequences that no one could fully predict. As the news spread, global leaders scrambled to convene emergency meetings. The United Nations Security Council was called into session within hours. Financial markets reacted instantly, stock prices plunged worldwide, while oil prices soared to levels not seen in years. The world economy, already fragile, teetered on the edge of chaos. That evening, the President of the United States addressed the nation in a somber televised speech. He insisted that the strikes were necessary to prevent an imminent nuclear threat, framing the decision as one of last resort. The President's words were resolute, but his expression betrayed the gravity of the moment. He was careful to emphasize that the operation was aimed squarely at Iran's regime and its military infrastructure, not at the Iranian people. The United States, he said, remained a reluctant enforcer of global security, acting only when all other options had been exhausted. Maps of targeted sites were shown, underscoring the precision and intent behind the strikes. Yet for millions of ordinary people, both in the United States and around the world, the official justifications mattered little compared to the terrifying reality unfolding before them. Crowds gathered in public squares, glued to their phones and television screens, anxiously awaiting updates as dawn broke over a changed world. In Iran, state media at first denied that any major damage had occurred. News anchors projected calm, showing images of minor destruction and crowds waving Iranian flags in defiance. The government sought to project strength and unity, even as uncertainty gripped the nation. But on social media, a different story emerged. Amateur videos filmed in the dead of night captured flashes and explosions near the cities of Qom and Isfahan. Shaky cell phone footage and frantic posts contradicted the official narrative, spreading rapidly across the globe and fueling confusion. The world was left to piece together the truth from a chaotic mix of official statements, propaganda, and grainy, unverified footage. Newsrooms struggled to verify facts, while misinformation and speculation filled the void. In this fog of war, certainty was elusive. As military vehicles mobilized and smoke rose over Iranian cities, the long-feared conflict was no longer a distant threat. It was now an undeniable, terrifying reality for millions. All eyes turned to Iran as the world waited with bated breath for its next move. In Tehran and beyond, people braced for what might come next, uncertain whether the worst was yet to unfold. The question on everyone's mind was stark and urgent. Was this a single, isolated strike, or the opening salvo in a much wider, more devastating war that could engulf the entire Middle East, and perhaps the world? Operation Midnight Sentinel unfolded with stunning speed in the pre-dawn hours, catching much of the world, and Iran itself, off guard. As darkness still blanketed the region, a meticulously coordinated assault began, marking one of the most significant military operations in recent memory. The skies above Iran became a theater of high-stakes strategy and advanced technology as the world's attention shifted to the unfolding events. US B-2 Spirit stealth bombers, nearly invisible to radar and engineered for deep penetration missions, soared silently across Iranian airspace. Their targets were clear: Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan, facilities at the very heart of Iran's nuclear ambitions. These bombers, flying at high altitude and under the cover of night, delivered precision strikes designed to cripple Iran's most sensitive and fortified sites. To breach the heavily reinforced underground bunkers, the US deployed massive ordnance penetrators, 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs capable of smashing through layers of concrete and rock. The explosions reverberated for miles, sending shockwaves through the region and signaling the seriousness of the operation. At the same time, U.S. Navy warships and submarines stationed in nearby waters unleashed a barrage of Tomahawk cruise missiles. These missiles streaked across the night sky, targeting Iran's air defense systems, radar installations and command centers, aiming to paralyze Iran's ability to respond effectively. This multi-pronged assault, combining airstrikes and missile attacks from multiple directions, overwhelmed Iran's layered defenses. Despite attempts to intercept the incoming threats, Iranian air defense systems struggled to keep up with the sheer volume and precision of the attack. In the aftermath, satellite imagery revealed catastrophic damage at Fordow, with large sections of the facility destroyed. Natanz and Isfahan also suffered heavy hits, their infrastructure left in ruins. The scale of destruction was quickly apparent to analysts and observers worldwide. Iranian officials moved quickly to downplay the impact, claiming minimal losses and insisting their nuclear program remained intact. However, independent evidence and satellite photos told a different story, pointing to a major setback for Iran's nuclear ambitions. Experts estimated that the strikes likely pushed Iran's nuclear program back by several years, erasing years of progress in a single night and forcing a complete reassessment of their capabilities and timelines. As news of the operation broke, the world watched in shock and anticipation. Crowds gathered around screens in capitals from Washington to Beijing, while international leaders scrambled to respond to the rapidly changing situation, bracing for the possibility of further escalation. By dawn, the skies over Iran had not only witnessed a dramatic display of military might, but it also shifted the balance of power in the Middle East overnight, leaving the world to wonder what the next chapter would bring. Each target was chosen for its unique and critical role in Iran's nuclear program, forming the backbone of the country's nuclear ambitions. These sites were not selected at random, rather, they represented the most vital links in Iran's nuclear fuel cycle, each contributing in a distinct way to the potential development of nuclear weapons. Fordow, buried deep within a mountain near the city of Qom, was Iran's most secretive and heavily fortified enrichment site. Its underground location made it extremely difficult to attack, and it was specifically designed to withstand airstrikes. Fordow's primary function was to enrich uranium to higher levels, making it a key facility for producing weapons-grade material. Its secrecy and fortification underscored its importance in Iran's nuclear strategy, and neutralizing it was essential to halting any progress toward a nuclear weapon. Natanz, often described as the centerpiece of Iran's nuclear program, housed thousands of advanced centrifuges. This sprawling facility was the main hub for uranium enrichment, processing large quantities of uranium gas into enriched uranium. The scale and sophistication of Natanz made it the heart of Iran's enrichment efforts, and its destruction would severely cripple Iran's ability to produce the material needed for a nuclear bomb. Destroying Natanz was a strategic move, as it effectively dismantled Iran's capacity to produce enriched uranium on a large scale. The damage inflicted here set back Iran's nuclear timeline by years, making it a critical blow to their ambitions. Isfahan played a different but equally vital role. It was the starting point of the nuclear process where raw uranium ore was converted into uranium hexafluoride gas, the essential feedstock for enrichment. Without Isfahan, the entire supply chain would be disrupted as no new material could be prepared for enrichment at Natanz or Fordow. By targeting Isfahan, the U.S. aimed to cut off the supply chain at its very source, ensuring that even if enrichment facilities survived, they would have nothing to process. This move was designed to paralyze Iran's nuclear program from the ground up. The strikes were meticulously planned to dismantle the entire nuclear production chain, not just damage a few buildings. By hitting all three sites, the U.S. sought to ensure that Iran's nuclear infrastructure would be left inoperable for years to come. This comprehensive approach sent a clear and unmistakable message to both Iran and the world. The U.S. would not allow Iran to cross the nuclear threshold, and was willing to take decisive action to prevent it. The ultimate goal was to ensure that Iran could not quickly rebuild its nuclear capabilities. By targeting the most critical facilities, the U.S. aimed to impose long-term setbacks and make any recovery slow and costly. The Pentagon's strategy was systemic, not symbolic. Every target was chosen for maximum impact, with the intention of crippling Iran's nuclear ambitions at every stage of the process. In the end, Iran's nuclear ambitions suffered a calculated, devastating blow. one that would echo through the region and the world for years to come. Operation Midnight Sentinel showcased the full spectrum of American air power. B-2 Spirit bombers, engineered for stealth and long-range precision, delivered the devastating bunker busters. These aircraft can penetrate deep into hostile territory, striking targets other nations can't reach. The massive ordnance penetrator was designed to collapse underground chambers, not just damage entrances. Tomahawk cruise missiles, launched from ships and submarines, destroyed air defenses and surface infrastructure. This cleared the way for bombers and minimized risk to pilots. The multi-layered attack maximized efficiency, each weapon matched to its target. The result? A comprehensive strike that left Iran's nuclear infrastructure in ruins. The operation demonstrated overwhelming technological and strategic dominance. America's message was unmistakable. Its reach and power remain unmatched. The world took notice. The strikes triggered a wave of global reactions. Israel praised the US for neutralizing a threat it had long warned about. European allies urged restraint, fearing escalation and calling for renewed diplomacy. Russia and China condemned the attack as illegal aggression, warning of dangerous consequences. In the Middle East, Iran's rivals quietly supported the strikes, while its allies, like Hezbollah and Shia militias, vowed revenge. The United Nations called for emergency talks, highlighting deep divisions over how to handle Iran. The world was split. Some saw decisive action, others saw reckless provocation. The risk of a wider conflict loomed large. Tehran's response was swift and defiant. Iran's supreme leader condemned the strikes, vowing retribution and insisting the nation's resolve would only grow. The Revolutionary Guard threatened US bases in the region, warning the era of American impunity was over. Iran's military went on high alert, conducting drills in the Strait of Hormuz and signaling threats to global oil shipments. Diplomatically, Iran launched a campaign to isolate the US, accusing it of fabricating intelligence and violating international law. Analysts debated Iran's next move: direct missile strikes, proxy attacks, cyber warfare, or attempts to close the strait. Tehran faced a dilemma: retaliate forcefully or risk all-out war. The world braced for Iran's answer. In the US, the strikes deepened political divisions. The president's supporters called it a necessary act to prevent a nuclear Iran, praising his resolve. Critics condemned the operation as reckless, questioning the intelligence and the lack of congressional approval. Protests and rallies erupted nationwide, reflecting a country split down the middle. Media coverage mirrored the divide, with some outlets hailing the precision and others warning of escalation. Polls showed no national consensus, just a deepening rift. The usual rally around the flag effect was absent. America's internal fractures were on full display. The strike sent shockwaves through the global economy. Oil prices soared, stoking fears of supply disruptions through the Strait of Hormuz. Stock markets tumbled, airlines and travel companies suffered, while defense and oil stocks surged. US embassies and bases went on high alert, and air traffic was rerouted around Iran. The risk of proxy attacks and maritime threats spiked, raising insurance costs and anxiety. The greatest danger: uncontrolled escalation. A cycle of retaliation could spiral into a catastrophic regional war, destabilizing the Middle East and the world economy. The world watched, hoping leaders would step back from the brink. As the dust settled, the world faced a crossroads. The US strikes had reset the Middle East's balance of power, but the future was uncertain. One path: Iran weakened, opts for limited retaliation, leading to a tense standoff but avoiding all-out war. The other: Iran strikes back hard, triggering a devastating cycle of escalation. A full-scale war would destabilize the region and the global economy, with tragic human costs. The White House had gambled that force could solve what diplomacy could not. Whether that gamble pays off remains to be seen. The world is reminded how quickly peace can unravel. The choices made now will shape the fate of the Middle East, and perhaps the world.